Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. And this isn't per se an edition of new comics, bitches! But rather just a special exploration of a new comic that came out today. It did not hit the newsstands, it did not hit the comic book stores, did not wind up at the bookstores. It is only available online. And of course, what I'm talking about is Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin's very brand new comic, The Private Eye. So, what do we have here in regards to The Private Eye? What is it about? Well, the book begins, simply enough, with a kind of pervy seeming guy who's taking pictures of a young, beautiful woman who was just returned to her apartment. And he's, under his breath, he's saying, take it all off, baby. And it seems very clear what he wants. And as she starts to remove her clothing, we start to notice something very unusual. This woman is certainly not what she seems to be. And it's at this moment that she is then put upon or that he is put upon, I should say, rather, by, well, it appears to be a cop, but is in fact the press. And the press is acting as the police. And they seem to have a paparazzi amongst their midst. And this chase begins, and we have our intrepid reporter who looks to be basically chasing him through a futuristic city. And what does that mean for our hero? Or maybe our anti-hero? Who knows? But it does mean that he has to get away. We're back to normal now. So, just thought I'd have a little bit of fun there. But, yeah, so what we essentially have here is a book that takes place in the year 2076. And what happens to be going on in the year 2076 is that we'll work up to that. But we have our protagonist here, which is a young man named Patrick Immelman, although that's apparently not his real name. And Patrick he's a bit of he's what is referred to as an unlicensed journo, which is basically shorthand for he's basically the kind of guy that does what the regular members of the Fourth Estate can't or won't do. He's a private eye. But not in the classical sense of being a private investigator. He is a private eye. And he's completed with his job, and he goes back to his office, and someone enters. And it appears to be a human with a tiger's head. But what in fact it is a very, very, very expensive holographic collar, or a nim, that once turned off, we see that she is a beautiful young woman. And what she wants to hire Immelman for is to basically to dig into her own past. The reason being is that she has maybe done some not so good things, maybe gotten involved with some not so great people, and she wants whatever that he can dig up to remain buried. So, as we are about to get into more of her story and why he's kind of uncomfortable with taking the case, he gets interrupted by a phone call. And, of course, as we see around his office at the Chateau Marmont, it is filled with objects of, well, basically posters of old film noir, like the Maltese Falcon, and I can't remember the other one there, but it's a Cagney film. And we have him pulling out an old vinyl by the Flaming Lips and listening to that. We see he has books. So he seems to be just kind of an old school guy for 2076. But what we then find out through this phone call from his grandfather, who, when we see him, he seems to be suffering from some kind of mental deterioration, like Alzheimer's, something to that effect. And even Patrick does say something to the effect that about how much drugs these kids used to be on. And so we have that, and we have all these other elements that then come into play. The old man, the grandfather, is messing around with his broken old smartphone, and it won't work. He can't get any signal. Why is that? There's no, Patrick, when he's on the phone, talks about there being no Wi-Fi, no MP4s, that none of these things exist anymore. Well, why is that? And then we get to kind of the other point of this book, which is where we go back to the teaser images of Like, Share, Follow. Is that in this world, many, many years ago, and the old guy is awesome. He's wearing a tank top, and he's kind of wearing hipster-esque glasses, and he's got tattoos, just coming off of both arms and everything like that. But Patrick breaks down the story once again for him, is that there used to be this thing once upon a time called the cloud that everybody would store their information in. And it would be, whether it was photographs or private emails or private correspondence of some point or of some kind of another. And one day, the cloud burst. And all of that private information that everybody thought was going to be safe is no longer present. It's not no longer present. It is everywhere. Everyone has access to everybody's information. And it drove the world to basically say, okay, no more internet for anybody. No one has any internet anymore. No one has smartphones. No one has MP3 players. People's privacy will remain private, but in the old-fashioned way. So we see why Patrick Immelman is listening to vinyl, and he has old books like Tropic of Cancer, and he's using an old landline phone, is because none of the personal computing stuff that I'm using right now, that you're watching this on, all the stuff that we use every single minute of every single day practically is gone. It's a memory. And then once we get away from that, we once again meet the young woman who is set upon by a former lover, acquaintance, friend, enemy, someone that she's afraid of, named Daguerre. And she knows that she's been in contact with a member of the press, even if they're not strictly a member of the press. And there's something that he desperately does not want the press to know. And therein lies our book. From a creator standpoint, this is what we're dealing with. Vaughan and Martin have launched a website. It's called Panel Syndicate. And when they launched this today, they introduced this comic. It is only available online. You have to buy it online. It is, you can get it in one of 3 formats, and I will post the link to that website down in this video. And you can, it's almost like a museum where you go in, and some museums you do have to pay to get in, but some museums you go to and donations are appreciated but not required. And that's exactly what The Private Eye is right now. It is a book that is completely digital rights management free. I downloaded it on my computer and then transferred that to my tablet. So you can see here the cover of The Private Eye. And every page is a 32-page book, and you can pay whatever you want. You don't have to pay $2.99 or $3.99 or $4.99 for this beautiful, gorgeous, brilliant book. You can pay anything you want. You can pay from 0 cents to an infinite amount of money. And me personally, I paid $8.99 for this. I was going to round up and go to 9, but no, I figured I'd just keep it on the 99 cents. Because this is something that I have zero problem backing. It's not a Kickstarter, it's not anything, and just the way that this has been presented to us by that we have, it's a comic book about where the internet doesn't exist anymore, and it's only available on the internet. So I mean, just from kind of a pseudo-marketing standpoint, from a kind of a guerrilla marketing standpoint, that's a brilliant idea. I mean, that's just fascinating that they would actually use this thing to create this book that talks about where there's no internet anymore. And at the end of this book, there is a letter from Vaughan about kind of the concept of this book and the inception of the book and why they chose to release it in the way that they're releasing it. Now you can download it in CBR, CBZ, or in PDF format. You can only download it once, but you can download it in whatever format you think is going to be best. I got it in CBR format so that I could use it on my comic rack on my computer. I could use it on the comic rack here. It's just so much easier than doing a PDF. Because while I like Adobe, I'm not a huge fan of it, and I just like the CBR format a lot better. So, and from the actual comic standpoint, we have an incredibly vivid world I mean, just explosively vivid. So, really, with Martin doing these incredible, like almost every page is kind of like a dual page. It's like a splash page, and a twofold splash page, and it is glorious to see his work. I mean, Marcos Martin is one of the greatest comic book artists that is living right now, and that's no shit. I'm not lying. I mean, from his work with Vaughn on The Oath, from his work on Spider-Man, to his work on Daredevil, which is mostly the places that I've seen his stuff, he is just, he's a magician with the pencil, the inks. There is a different colorist, so he doesn't do all the heavy lifting. Munsta Vicente is the colorist on this, and the color art is incredibly vivid as well. So we have just the craziness of, this future where the press are the police, the Fourth Estate, and we have, holographic collars, invisibility hoodies, paint guns, marijuana cigarettes, terrifically bizarre factions that they've cooked up, from retro to super futuristic. But when you strip away that artifice, which is incredibly vivid and incredibly well designed, at the heart of this story, at the core of the story, this is a 1930s or 40s pulp noir story. It's a good old-fashioned private eye story about the one case that is going to put our detective, or our private eye in this case, into the most danger that he's ever been in. This is going to be a 10-issue series. I'm relatively certain that it appears that all of these are going to be released solely online. So do yourself a favor and follow the link that I will post down below and get on board with this series, because this is an amazing first issue. It's an amazing first issue. It really is brilliant. Vaughn, again, painting this world and its characters, and then leaving it to Martin to actually do the painting of this world in all of its vivid, amazingly detailed glory. And it is stunning to look at. It's incredible to read. Aside from Fatale, this would put any crime book that is out now to complete shame. There's no other crime book out right now that is, and Fatale is kind of you can kind of look at that a couple different ways. It's sort of a crime story, but not completely, obviously, as we've seen from the last couple issues. But it is just glorious, and this is a fantastic comic book. And I know that we have our next issues of Saga and Fatale that are coming out tomorrow, but this is unless those books seriously kick some ass, which they may, we're looking like that this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but we're looking like this could be conceivably the book of the week. And it is just fantastic. So go ahead, get it, give what you can. Don't be an asshole and give nothing, because that's just shitty. Give 99 cents, give $1, give money, because these guys deserve your fucking cash. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I spent $8.99 on this today because I felt, okay, I need to give these guys as much of my hard-earned money as I can afford to give them, because it's Brian K. Vaughan and it's Marcos Martin, and it's brilliant. It's an absolute 5 out of 5 for this book. It is fantastic. I love it. You'll love it. if you love Brian K. Vaughan, you will love this first issue. You might think, okay, well, it doesn't really explore a whole lot. But, I mean, if you think about where this is set and everything that is going to come from this, you're going to see that even if you think that's kind of thin on maybe some character development, that they're working with tropes. And that is where we are having fun with this, is that it's not completely trope-filled, but at the same time we see that Vaughan is having fun with the tropes, that he wants to explore them, that he wants to use them so that he can make a compelling story that takes place seemingly in two kind of divergent timelines, that we have one, or not timelines, but time periods. We have the future of 2076 and the past of the 1930s or 40s. And just amazing stuff, and I could not be happier that this is out today. So that's it. I'm done now. I know this has been 20 minutes of me talking about one book, and normally, for those of you who are new here, welcome. Please subscribe. I don't normally go on this long about one book, but I will go on for a long time. As you can see if you go through my channel, you'll see that all of my videos are an hour plus. Some of them are 2 hours long. So, and I do this every week. Even the last one was almost an hour and 50 minutes, I think. So, if that's your kind of thing, get on board, because every video I do tends to be epic. So, like it, thumb it up, thumb it down, comments below. I want to hear what you guys think about this book. And I am running a contest for all of my subscribers, so feel free, if you are new here, please subscribe. If you don't know about this, if you want to know the rules of this this contest, please go and watch my most recent video that is called New Comics Bitches! And you will find out what exactly that is. So I'm hoping that I do get some new subscribers out of this. If you are a subscriber and you feel like, hey, recommend this guy to somebody else, maybe they'll like it and maybe they can come on board. It's always appreciated to have a new subscriber here and there, especially when they get to hear about the swag that they can win if they want to do one of my contests. So that's it for tonight. Thank you again so much for watching and for listening. If you're listening to this on podcast, you can go to iTunes and and look up Shadow Gallery Podcast. You will find me there. And then you can listen to me on your way to work, or while you're on break from work, or on your way home from work, or just while you're out and about on a long walk, or a trek through the wilderness where you're going to be lost for an hour, because that's how long it takes to get through one of mine, at least. So, again, thank you so much for watching. This has been my review of The Private Eye #1 by Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin. Awesome. So, I'm James Donnelly. This has been the Shadow Gallery. Thanking you again for watching and reminding you, as always, to stay in the shadows.